Alice L. Foley Lecture, Nazareth College, Rochester, New York, August 17, 1979.
In fact, not been the traditional college-going groups in our state. And that means concentration on those who are of minority background, or those whose native language is other than English, and indeed those who are not in the age bracket of 18 to 24. And this means, I think, an increase in recruitment out of state and internationally, as well as an increase in recruitment within the state. When one looks at the enterprise in higher education that we have in New York and compares it with what exists elsewhere, one begins to realize what an extraordinary array of institutions and programs we have, and the possibility of working to try to make sure that that resource is used by those perhaps outside of our state or even our nation, I think is a very real possibility. There is, in addition to that group, a concern for increasing the adult population in our colleges and universities. In New York in 1977, there were 225,000 part-time undergraduates, a 12% decline from 2 years earlier. Not an increase, but a decline. We must, I think, turn that back around the other direction. And one of the particular ways to do that is to adopt a measure we have advocated for this past year and will continue in this next year, and that is to make at the state level tuition assistance awards available for part-time studies. Now, a third suggestion with respect to our overall goal of strengthening the institutions and strengthening enrollment. It perhaps sounds a bit like the second suggestion, but the emphasis is something different. And that is a concern for what I would call recurrent education. I note that today in this audience, there is a group of elder hostelers, those who have chosen to match their own interest for refreshment here at the college campus for additional study with the fact that the college has the capability and the facility to provide it. And it is in that sense, and that sense expanded, that I believe we must be thinking about a recurrent education and a vast increase in this activity in all of our colleges and universities. Our concern must be for the quality and not just for the quantity of learning, not just the addition of a course or a subject here and there, but a comprehensive policy to enable those who guide our decisions as a society, the leaders in government and business, industry, labor, the arts, and education, to participate regularly in coming back to the campus for purposes of study or re-examination of the foundation works which are at the core of our society. And as we think about that, I suggest that we think about what must be above all our reaffirmation of belief in the intrinsic value of education. We need to proclaim publicly whenever and wherever we can that it is far better to be informed than to be ignorant, that schools and colleges are and always will be the principal training grounds for people who know how to think and who have experienced that process of liberation and discovery that enables individuals to make rational, informed, and moral choices. Our democratic theory is based on the belief that all persons are of equal moral worth and equally capable of rational self-rule. The capacity is the product of those critical and analytical faculties which enable one to develop and act on a vision of the good life. Education must provide knowledge and also the power to make independent judgments, to weigh values, to master concepts, and to understand fundamental theories. Above all, it must provide the inner resources needed so that we can learn to enjoy our own company. Because of the enormous importance to our society of education and of those goals of access and of quality of which I was speaking, we must always be mindful of the pivotal role played by teachers at every level of instruction. Each of us can recall from our personal experience, whether in elementary school, secondary school, or at the college level, a teacher who profoundly changed our lives. Henry Brooks Adams, in his autobiographical Education of Henry Adams, wrote, "A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops." Let me close by sharing with you another quotation from one of Dr. Foley's messages as president of the New York State Teachers Association, published back in November 1966. It is a sobering thought that the students now in our schools will be the leaders of the world in the early years of the 21st century. If that new century is to know less of hate and fear, of poverty and inequality of opportunity, if it is to be free from the ravages of war, then many changes must take place in the minds and hearts of the children now in our classroom. If all of us who teach in all the classrooms of the world accept our awesome responsibilities as central change agents of society, the world of the 21st century can be a better world than we have ever known." End quote. I hope that you, together with me, as we care about education, share this vision and this dedication of choice and change for our society. Thank you very kindly.